Coming up on episode 105 of the Behind the Back podcast, the Eagles-Rams had an exciting game, and I wanted to get Ben's take on this comeback that the Eagles had before we preview the Eagles versus the Buccaneers. After that, we pivot on over to San Francisco, going over their game winner against the Arizona Cardinals. We address the Nick Bosa injury and kind of what the outlook is for the 49ers there before we preview their matchup with the Jaguars at home. And then we pivot on over to some final thoughts. Micah Parsons not getting a tribute video. Do we agree with that? Who knows? Jaxson Dart getting his start. We offered our takes on that and whether we think the Rook is going to have some success against the best defense in the league, LA Chargers. With that being said, y'all, let's get it. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Back podcast. We are your host. I am Marcos Conan Negron, and beside me here, as always, is Ben, the Jet Rets. Ben, another week. We are both 3-0. The Eagles and the Niners are 3-0. How are you feeling today?
Well, I got mixed feelings on the week, but I do have a new jersey that I got to kind of show off real quick. So we've got that Brock Purdy new rivalry jersey. And look, I debated what player I wanted to get on my back. And there was a 49er faithful one that just said faithful on the back. I thought that was sick. I played around with Warner, but ultimately, I defended this guy for as long as I did. I felt like I had to get the Brock Purdy jersey. So I'm pretty happy.
No, I love it. You look great in it, dude. So, like you guys heard in the intro, we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. It's going to be more our team centric because there's just a lot happening. Now we're further into the year where, we can still overreact to stuff, but at the same time, it's like, we're starting to see things come into shape here. So we're going to get right into the good stuff. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. And what they had was a very thrilling comeback on Sunday, down 19 points. Able to give 26 unanswered in order to seal the deal that ended with a Jordan Davis block return for a touchdown, his second consecutive block of that game. So this was against your lovely division rival. So this, in a way, benefited you. But when the Eagles were down, they were down 26-7 in this game. I want your take on just at that point when they were down 26-7. Did you think the game was over at that point? And then when they responded, how did that second half look to you?
The reason I couldn't count you guys out of the game had everything to do with what I saw the Niners do in the NFC Championship game against the Lions a couple of years ago, where bad play after bad play happens. The Niners are down. It just doesn't feel like there's any momentum. They come out of halftime and they find a little bit of momentum and are able to get points on the board and crawl their way back in. So, when Jalen fumbled that ball coming out of halftime, that felt like a heartbreaker, but I didn't really count you guys out of it per se. But I gotta admit, like, the way you guys came back was pretty surprising.
Okay, surprising how? Like surprising that you were surprised how successful they were, or surprised that, I guess surprised that they didn't fold?
Surprised that Jalen Hurts throw the football, honestly. Like, if I'm being honest with you, I was actually kind of like getting upset because you guys were just pounding Saquon into the dirt. He wasn't moving. And I was like, this is stupid. Like, I know Jalen can throw the football. We've watched Jalen throw the football. At this point, you've got nothing to lose. Like, everything is going against you. Everything's going wrong. What you're running right now isn't working. You might as well switch it up. And you have a former Super Bowl MVP who can absolutely sling the ball when you ask him to. So why haven't you asked him to do it yet? So, when you started throwing the football, when Jalen actually started throwing the football, he threw 32 times and completed 21 of those for those 3 touchdowns. Like, he was 100% the reason why you guys were able to get back into the game. And that's, it's nice to see them switch it up.
And I agree. I think so. This is part of the discourse we've been having these first couple weeks where, I think Eagles fans were okay. I think the identity that Sirianni and this group tried to instill in the whole city and not just themselves is like, we're going to do everything and anything it takes to win. We don't care how it looks. We don't care how the media or the fans want it to look. We're going to do it the way that we think is best. And I do think that there's an element of that was successful. And I was watching First Things First, and Nick Wright did make, as much as we hate on him and how much he hates on both of our teams, he did make a good point. Last year, it was easier for Eagles fans to say, let's run the ball with Saquon when he's ripping off 150 yards a game. And it was a lot different in this first half, and even just these past few games in general, where we're seeing the lack of success with Saquon, and yet we're still, like you said, just banging our heads against this wall that clearly wasn't working. And it almost just felt like the coaching staff forgot, like, hey, we have Jalen Hurts. Hey, we have AJ, Devontae. Like, trust these guys. I think that I don't blame them for having PTSD for the collapse of 2023. But I think if we're being honest now, since the bye week of last year, Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, has been efficient, has been effective, has not turned the ball over. He has 43 touchdowns and 5 turnovers since week 4 of last year.
On like 40 throws.
Yeah, so, on 40 throws. So efficient as you can get, right? So I think that this team, this version of the Eagles, at least the offense, has earned the benefit of the doubt to say, hey, let's let Jalen be the one who's more responsible. I think that 2023, Jalen was still learning how to be a leader. He still had Jason Kelce on the roster. His role was different. Last year, you saw him grow into the role of calling the protections and things like that. He was way more in control. And this year, you see a lot of that, like how in control and how calm he is. It just seems like he has the experience he has gained these past few years have been crucial. And I think that now Jalen has developed into this quarterback who you can rely on consistently. And yes, if let's say we tell him like, okay, go throw the ball 30 times these next 4 weeks, right? And if it looked like the beginning of last year where it's 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, then hey, let's dial it back a little bit and see if we can find this balance. But I think the Eagles have kind of shifted so far in this identity that they've tried to create for themselves that they kind of got lost in that. And I think that they need to, if they want to, because this team is not the same juggernaut as it was last year, at least at this point, right? The Eagles took a little bit of time. They're still in their preseason mode for the starters. Like, there's still a lot to iron out. But what better time, especially now that you're 3-0, what better time to try and experiment a little bit and see if this is the way you want to go the rest of the season before committing to a true identity for the rest of the season when you can kind of win however you want. You're getting away with a lot of these wins where people want to argue, like kind of like the Chiefs, like the Chiefs of last year where we're getting away, people are arguing about the kind of calls that haven't been called on us. People want to talk about like, if CD doesn't drop the ball, we lose that game. Or if Travis Kelce, if it doesn't get tipped, the Eagles probably lose that one too. Like, that's the discussion of like, oh, the Eagles are like close, and yet they're still winning. So imagine, and what we saw in the second half, this is what this team is capable of. And we saw that in the playoffs last year. Like, why not try to be the best version of yourselves when obviously Saquon is not operating at his best right now because teams are saying we're not letting Saquon beat us. And, I think that Jalen has finally, because of all this time that he's spent, and we saw it on the sideline too, has come out and has been very vocal about the offense. Jalen and AJ both after the game said, we have all these guys. Like, trust us now because we've had this experience. So that's kind of where I'm thinking this offense needs to go, is like try to embrace a little bit more aggressiveness, because the Eagles are like a 55% running team to 45% pass. If we could just flip that around, 55-45, you still focus on the run, let the run set up the pass, all that stuff, and just see where it goes, see how this looks. Our receivers are healthy. Last year at the beginning of the year, we missed AJ and Devontae for a little bit of time too, and that's something we'll reference here in a little bit. But I think that, AJ looked incredible. Devontae looked incredible in this game. Like, why not take your chance and just see what this version of the Eagles can look like with Jalen being the one in charge?
So I think a lot of this, why we've seen this reaction to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles for not wanting to throw the football and so on, has a lot to do with kind of what we talked about last week, and that's that he was 18-0 in his last, 18 games. on an insane streak, right? And you look at that and you're like, okay, 14 of those games Saquon popped off. Realistically, not being the sole reason necessarily. 14 of those games, Saquon had a really good game. 10 of those, Jalen wasn't asked to win the game. He was just asked to do what you need to do. Hand the ball off, make a play when you need to make a play, which he does extremely well and at a very high level. So the problem was in those 18 games, while yes, he was like 18-0, it was that he wasn't doing the Josh Allen things. He wasn't doing the Patty Mahomes things, I can't even say the Lamar Jackson things at this point, but the things that quarterbacks would do to essentially put their team on their back, right? And have 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like, those aren't the games you see out of Jalen. But that's not to say that he can't be on the same level when it comes to, a reliability and yeah, just a reliability standpoint. Like, with Jalen, knowing that he's going to make the right play 8 times out of 10, I think is probably right. 8 times out of 10 is massive because you have the best running back in the league. You have the best offensive line in the league at times. There's your defense, while not as elite as it was last year, is still on a pretty high level. You have some question marks right now, but those will iron out. Like, there's all these reasons why, the Eagles should lean on what they're doing. It's just, that's, I think, a lot of the reason why you see this argument amongst the media and amongst fans mostly is like, and I even dog you on it sometimes, like, Jalen doesn't throw the football. And I mean, in this game, this is the perfect example. He's asked to throw the football in the second half after you continuously beat your head against a wall. He's finally asked to throw the football, and he does perfect, essentially perfect. And it's like, that's the part of it for me, being a Brock Purdy fan. That's like, why not let your boy sling it more? Because he's more than capable. So I think I agree with you. Shifting that, rushing to passing from 45 to 55, just flipping those percentages a bit, I think would do you guys a lot of good because you're seeing teams load up and sell out against the run right now.
And we saw a lot of strategy scheme that was really simple for the Eagles that worked against the Rams. And one thing we didn't really see much of was what really helped AJ get open was they decided to stack 3 receivers on one side and leave AJ alone on the other. Like, it's rocket science. Like, whoa, that gives AJ Brown more of a one-on-one matchup. Who knew, right? So I think that there's a level of criticism from this offense that are like, guys, like, we as the players have been around the block a lot. And like, Sirianni, we love you. Like, we know that this is what you do and like you're worried about everything and you're prepared for everything. But like, you got to take that straight jacket off, at least on the passing offense, right? As Jalen would like to say. I think that he's more confident than ever. And I think that confidence is what's keeping this team in games. That was part of the mentality shift. That's on the coaching staff too, but it was on the coaching staff for playing so freaking conservatively these past few weeks. And I understand this from the playoffs. I think that like in the playoffs, it's okay to play it a little bit, I wouldn't say safer, but like take advantage of every little thing like the Eagles like to do well. But right now, your defense isn't where it was last year. Right now, but that's the thing. They're the youngest defense in the league, and they still have all the potential in the world. But it took this defense last year, full of young guys, same thing. It didn't. Midway through the season, like through the first half of the season, the Eagles defense wasn't regarded as the best defense in the league. It wasn't until the end of the year came, guys were familiar, got used to their roles and things like that. And I think we're going to see a lot of that with this Eagles defense too. We're seeing the young guys make plays, like our first 2 draft picks are contributing and are playing really well. But we are dealing with some injuries, and we'll bring that up too. But like, I think there is still a learning curve for a lot of these young guys that we added to the roster, and I think that we're going to see that pay dividends later in the season. So then later in the season, you can lean into okay, let's try to drain clock, let the defense do its job. Like, okay, cool. But for now, like the offense, like that shouldn't be the stale part. The part with 10 of 11 players returning should not be stale. It should be a well-oiled machine at this point. And even when at times when the Eagles offense looks stagnant, it has always consistently been a top 10 offense by the numbers. So they always seem to figure it out somehow, some way. I hope that it's a shame that they needed to be down 19 points to get that kind of wake-up call. It's incredibly impressive that they were able to respond that way against a team like the Rams, who, again, a lot of people view as contenders, who hate the Eagles, who had this look on them that they're like, we can beat this team, and they found a way to, vomit on themselves, for lack of a better term. The Rams did, and like it's almost like the Eagles are gaining this mystique of like, hey, we got to treat this team differently because of the way that they play. And I think that we're seeing that a lot with teams like McVay. They were talking about it on the broadcast going in. They're like, oh, McVay's going to be aggressive. And he wasn't aggressive. He was afraid. He played not to lose, just like the Eagles did in the first half. And I just think it was very interesting. And also Matt Stafford, he had a decent game. He had a couple big throws, but he also missed a bunch of opportunities in this one too. And that's kind of been the case for a lot of these Eagles games too, where some of these quarterbacks like Mahomes and them who had open opportunities, they don't convert. And the Eagles have been playing C+ football at best through these first 3 weeks. That second half was an A+, but that first half was an F. So it's like the Eagles are still figuring out so much stuff, and we're beating quality teams on this road, on this tough schedule that we have. So we're stacking wins early. And I just think that this is one of the more shocking wins I've had to see in a little bit, because the Eagles haven't been down like that in quite some time. I think, especially that many points and being able to watch a comeback like that was really cool. But I don't want to have to be in that position a lot, but I think it just goes to show that like you said, you can't count this team out. And I said that on my post game. Please feel free to go check that out. It's on our feed. But I was the thing, like, it's not pretty, but I have a feeling that it's not like the Chiefs of last year. I think people were referencing that a lot, but it's not like them in the sense that this roster is much more talented, and the receiving core, all that, like, the recipe for success is still here in Philadelphia. And I think that, this is the kind of game that kind of just reminds everybody that, like, hey, your team is good. Your team might be really, really good, but until you can punch above your weight and beat this Eagles team, I think that the conversation around the NFC, which everyone loves to pick a new winner every year, maybe we need to accept the fact that maybe the Eagles are still the best team, who aren't playing their best, and they're the sleeping giant that everyone's going to be waiting for. I'm so excited for the bye week 9, because week 10, the Packers, week 11 or week 12, the Lions, the Chargers, week 13, like a lot of teams that we get to, who want their shot at us, and we want to use as a measuring stick game. Like, we're going to get those opportunities, and I think we're not going to win all of those. I don't think we're going to win all of those, because it's just, realistically speaking, that's not how it works. But I just feel so confident that, like, we're everybody else's Super Bowl right now, and I kind of like where we're at right now.
That's fair. All right, let's talk about this upcoming game, Marcos, because I know you're excited about this. This is the favorite matchup of yours, I'm sure, right?
So, yeah, the Buccaneers are the one team that I respect, because they are the one team that seems to consistently beat the Eagles, this version of the Eagles. Baker Mayfield. There's a lot to unpack in this game. The injury report's a little bit extensive for both teams right now, so I'll just go through it real quick. The big one to look out for, the Bucs lost 2 offensive linemen, Luke Gedeke and Cody Mock, are both out for an extended period of time. So Tristan Wirfs, though, is off of IR, was a limited participant in practice. So we'll see. And he's their all-pro left tackle. So we'll see if he is in the game. That would be huge for them to get him back. But the interior of this offensive line is in trouble for the Buccaneers. Now, they only got sacked once last week, but they did play the Jets, so that was kind of a weird game. Jets are still figuring a lot of stuff out. But Baker Mayfield was limited today with a bicep, I guess, but I think he'll be fine. He'll be good to go. Chris Godwin is off IR, was a full participant in practice, so we get to worry about him. But on the other receiver side, we don't have to worry about Mike Evans. He is on IR, will be gone for a few weeks. So Levante David was also limited with a knee, but I'm sure he'll be fine. And Christian Izzy in their corner did not practice. So, and then when we look on the Eagles side of things, Zach Bond had a brace on his left leg. I think there was a play where he had made a play, but his left leg got rolled up on. And I guess it had an effect on him because he is now wearing a brace at practice. He did not practice, but he was at practice doing the warm-ups and stuff. Jahad Campbell did not practice. He has a tricep injury. Don't know what that means for him, if this was a maintenance thing. Adoree Jackson got hurt last game. He did not participate. He most likely will not be playing. Same with Jacorian Bennett, who went on IR. So this is the Keely Ringo opportunity that we've been waiting for. So this is going to be a great test for Keely Ringo. Apparently, Vic Fangio was asked about him, and he says that, during his time in with the squad team, like, he has been performing really well, and he's been telling him, like, hey, stay ready. You have been playing well enough to have a shot here. So what better time than against a really good receiving core, which I'm actually excited to see, because that's going to be one of the matchups to look out for. But Lane Johnson had a neck injury, was out, missed the Rams game. He left early, never came back, but he said that it was just a stinger. He was limited, but he should be good to go. So we'll see if he plays the whole game on Sunday. And Will Shipley, who was dealing with a broken rib, is back. They said 6 to 12 weeks. I guess he's going to play through it. So he was a full participant, ready to go. So we'll see what happens for him. And then Tanner McKee, still dealing from that right thumb injury that he broke in preseason. He is limited, so it's looking like he was trending back. So I think from an injury standpoint, Nolan Smith was not listed on this. He is on IR as well. He re-aggravated that tricep injury he injured in the Super Bowl, so that's kind of a bummer. The Eagles said that he is fine, doesn't need surgery. They're actually just the timing of it, they're just putting him on IR so then he can come back after the bye week, so that they're just going to give him some rest, which is fine. So whatever needs to happen there. So our defense is taking hits. And against this Bucs team, whose offensive style definitely goes against what Vic Fangio likes to do. Baker loves taking whatever the defense gives him, and Fangio is always like, I'm going to give you the short stuff. I'm going to give you everything, and Baker's totally okay with that, which sucks. So it's going to be this is a tough matchup. And the same thing on the defense. Todd Bowles always has a really great defensive game plan for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts seems to always struggle against Todd Bowles. A lot of it is his blitzing, but I do think, last time the Eagles and the Bucs played, it was in the regular season last year. That was before this huge win streak. The Eagles didn't have AJ or Devontae in this game. So I think that was part of, why the Eagles struggled last time. So I'm very interested to see, with a fully healthy offense, basically, how this Eagles offense looks against this Bucs defense that hasn't been, the stingiest. And that's the other thing about the Bucs too. A lot of people love the Bucs. They're 3-0. But they've also had 3 comeback wins. How sustainable is that going to be for the rest of the year? But there is an energy around this Bucs team that they are confident. Baker looks more confident and better than ever. And, so it's a team that we have to respect, because they have had our number. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, we totally got this in the bag. It will help that Mike Evans is missing on the defensive side of things, on the offensive side of the ball for our defense. But if we do let this offense fly through the air, I can see this being a shootout game. But one that I am confident that the Eagles, I think, will be able to win this time around. I also think that another thing to look out for, just like last year when they played, the weather played a huge factor with the heat. They said the real feel of the field is going to be 105 degrees. So it's going to be another hot one. The Eagles played in 90-plus degree weather when they played in Kansas City, so they kind of had a little bit of this already. And the Eagles went to Tampa Bay. Today is Wednesday, so they went down today. They wanted to get an extra day of, used to the Florida heat, I guess. I don't know if one day is going to make that big of a difference, but, whatever they want to do. So for you, because I'm very curious to see what your score is and all, kind of your take on this game. Do you feel like the Eagles, are going to continue their momentum from the second half of last game into this week? Or do you think that the Bucs are kind of having a nice little roll and think that they might have some room to make some moves in this game?
Well, I mean, that's the discussion, is which team's going to roll their momentum into this game the best. And, the injuries around the Eagles right now, it's tough timing, because this is the bugaboo. This is the game that you guys don't want to lose, because this is a team that you've lost to a few times now, and each one's been like, well, we didn't have all our guys in this one. This one was just weird. The other one was crazy weather. And here we are again, injuries, hot weather. Yeah, it's perfect time to play the Bucks apparently, but I got to admit, like, the injuries on the defensive side of things for the Eagles are concerning to me. This is a team that already struggled to stop a pass as it is. Now you got Keely Ringo, who he has made some strides as a player, but he's pretty unproven still. He's pretty fresh. And like you said, this is a good wide receiver room, you know, even without Mike Evans. This is a receiver room that can give you some trouble. So I'm not sure how I feel about this matchup yet. And I'm still kind of on the fence as we speak. I have a score, but I'm not sure which one I want to give to who yet. So that was kind of the reason I wanted to be undecided coming into this, is because I wanted to hear from your side. I've seen it from the Bucs side. The weather, though, man, like that's not something you can just kind of overlook. You know, it's going to make things interesting.
I think that from a weather perspective, so long as they said there was going to be scattered thunderstorms in the area, I don't know if that means on the field itself. So that is going to be something to monitor, but it's going to be like, that's going to be something that I'm interested in. I think the Eagles now, they don't like, nobody likes playing in the heat, but I think that they have had enough practice, especially early on this year, and they also had a very hot training camp. So this is something that, I think might benefit them going into this game. But no, you're right. That receiving core for, Tampa Bay, especially now that you add Godwin back into the picture, doesn't look as dire. Emeka Mbuka, that rookie, is unbelievable. You said it when we were talking about all these teams on our predictions pod. You were like, he was the most NFL ready receiver, and he's looked awesome, and he's definitely going to be a problem. I'm very excited to see a Quinyon Mitchell Mbuka matchup, especially now with Evans out. And they did a lot of shadowing last week for Mitchell with Devontae Adams, so I'm very curious to see how they approach it. Are we just going to have Cooper stick on, Chris Godwin in the slot, because we know that's where Chris is going to live? So it's going to be interesting. So Mbuka, Godwin, Sterling Shepard, Cade Otton, like, they have weapons, and they love running the ball with that two-headed monster of Bucky Irving, Rashad White. They're efficient, but their O-line is a question. But Baker is, he's a good quarterback, man. I respect the hell out of Baker. He's a winner. He knows how to grind out gritty wins. It never looks pretty for them either, but he finds a way. He has a back-breaking run. He makes a good play here or there. So I refuse to count out this Bucs team. I think defensively, like, where their strength is still their front seven. Their corners, they have Antoine Winfield. We didn't play him last time, but I have more confidence that if Todd Bowles, he's going to get to Hurts a couple times. I already know it. The Eagles take a second to adjust to blitz coverages and stuff, but they've been okay against the blitz. Back in 2023 when we played them, like, that was an issue. They didn't have any answers. This year, Jalen, I think you're seeing him get blitz. Yes, there's some blitzes that get home, but he's still, when he gets the ball off, it's actually been pretty effective. So I think that, now with the way they took deep shots last game against the Rams and really found that stride, they're going to hunt those matchups. I would be surprised if the Eagles go back to doing running the ball a lot to start the game. They might, just to see if they can, before letting Hurts rip it. I doubt they'll wait to be down 17, points to do so. But I think that the Eagles are going to be better prepared this time around, just because you have more offensive weapons on your side. So when I talk about the matchups that matter the most, it is going to be this offensive line versus this defensive front. You let Jalen Hurts get sacked 4 times against a very, very good Rams defensive front, and an overachieving at this point Rams defense. We'll see how they balance out as they play more tougher teams. But the Bucs defensive front, Vita Vea owns us every time. I'm not confident. They lost their star defensive tackle Kalijah Kancey. But, as a tush-push stopper, they had this 450-pound defensive tackle, Desmond Watson. They had him in the summer. Reports all summer was like, oh, this kid's out of shape. They won't even let him play because he doesn't fit the thing. And they cut him. And all of a sudden, he's back. They signed him for this game. I wonder why. We'll see what happens. So you want to put 800 pounds to clog up the front with him and Vita Vea. Tush Push is going to be a very interesting play to watch this week and see if maybe, having 800 pounds of defensive linemen in the front might actually help them out. I'm very curious to see if that works. But that was a little sidebar. But I think that, yeah, the O-line versus D-line, versus Todd Bowles blitzing. Well, Saquon Barkley, he missed a couple of blocking reps last week, having to help our replacement offensive line. Well, like those are the things that I'm looking out for our offense. But and then the other matchup is going to be our cornerbacks versus their receiving room. And, with this, is this going to be the Keely Ringo breakout game? Are we going to like what we see from him? Keely is a significantly better tackler than Adoree or Jacorian Bennett. So I feel good about him because he's such a good special teamers, and that's kind of his role as the gunner. I just have a little bit more confidence in the size of our defense going into this matchup. Obviously, no Nolan Smith. That's kind of a bummer because he has been playing really well. Probably more Sedarius Smith. Josh Uche has been playing well in the meantime, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to see if the Bucs decide to run on us. That'll be another matchup too. Is going to be, can this Bucs O-line that is battered and bruised, can they hold off Jalen Carter, who's playing hurt? Will Jordan Davis continue his breakout matchup? Like, I'm very curious to see where both of these teams line up. So those would kind of be. It'll be a battle of the trenches, and can our corners hold on long enough against this good receiving core to keep our defense in it? And again, I think the Bucs are gonna get yards. I think the Bucs, kind of like the Rams, are gonna be able to move the ball, but then it's gonna come down to those situations like 3rd and short, 4th and short. Are they gonna be able to get those money downs? And that's gonna be the difference in this game. It's gonna be a close game. Like this game, I think it's gonna be a highly contested game. I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth. The heat's going to get to the guys a little bit. So I'm going to say it's going to be 30-27 Philadelphia.
I'm going to say my score in a second. It's lower, but it's the same spread. So for me, you talked about how you think, the Eagles might start this game, if they'll rely on Hurts or if they'll go back to the ground game. I have a feeling that kind of like what I said at the beginning of all this was, you've won so many of these games with Saquon on the ground. They started last game, played an entire half just running him into a brick wall. The only reason they really shifted away from it was kind of because you had nothing else to lose and because Jalen Hurts was starting to sling it. And when he did, it was working, so you just stayed at that. I wouldn't be surprised if you see them revert back and start pounding the rock again and see if you can get yards. And then you've won so many games doing that. It's hard to get away from that recipe when it's still considered to be working. So with that being said, I expect a big game from Saquon. But I also expect Jalen to be precise in this game because, like you said, he's been confident. I am concerned about the defense, though. And in 105-degree heat, these guys on Tampa know how to play in that heat. They've been exposed to it, some of them for years now. And Baker's one of those guys. And I just think in this matchup, with all the injuries that you guys got, this is the first one of the year. One of us ain't taking our team. I've got Tampa going 24-21.
Okay, and I'm completely okay with that. And honestly, out of all the games, this is why I was really happy that we're 3-0, because I kind of did have this one circled of like trap game, or the game that if we were most likely to lose one of these games early in the schedule, this was the one I kind of had when I was thinking my win-loss total for this team. It would suck for this version of the Eagles for Jalen to go, be 1-6 against the Bucs. That would suck, and that would definitely not instill confidence going into a potential playoff matchup, especially when you're not getting the best version of the Bucs either. So it is, defensively, they're not getting the best version of us, but this offense, if we are, the team that we think we are, needs to, be able to shoulder that load. So yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. Definitely excited to see. So we will see what happens down there in Tampa Bay this weekend. Fly Eagles fly. We'll see what happens, but let's move on. We're going to go down to the Bay. San Francisco, now 3-0, picking up an awesome win against the division rival, the Arizona Cardinals. Eddie Dinero Pinheiro, man. That's the guy.
You like that?
That's the guy, man. I think that leave it to the Niners to put themselves in a position where they have to win off of a kick from the new guy that they signed, and last week had a little bit of drama to it. I thought this game was great. For number one, you keep stacking wins without Purdy, right? Like, Perfect. That's exactly what you want to do. Your guys are hurt, and you're still finding ways to win games. I think a lot of the Kyle Shanahan narratives are kind of getting, reversed a little bit too. Oh, he can't win in the fourth quarter when he's behind and down, down a few scores and stuff like that. And oh, Mac Jones, like, yeah, he loves Mac Jones, but he's still a backup. Can they win? Like, oh no, they're still missing receivers. Can Ricky be good enough? Oh, what's gonna happen? And all this stuff is kind of panned out, at least in that direction. Obviously, you guys have been stricken with some bad news, and we will talk about that in a second because I'm very curious to see your outlook. But 3-0 is 3-0. The schedule is still favorable. You got plenty of guys coming back in the next few weeks here, bit by bit. And I think I don't know what's going to happen with Purdy. I'll let you know. You tell me what's happening there. But I think that against the Jacksonville Jaguars team, I think the way you guys played the Cardinals, I think that there's still a lot that you can take from that Cardinals game that is going to show up in this Jags game. So I was super impressed. Even if the score was 16-15, you're grinding out a super gritty win. And not to mention, Mac Jones did get hurt in this game for a second too. So it's like you were down to no quarterbacks again. You guys love living dangerously like that, and still found a way to win. So I got to give you guys props for doing that. Like that's crazy. It was a great win.
Yeah, I came to like a realization after I did my post game, unfortunately. But if you guys haven't checked that out, please go out and check it out. It was a good one. But I came to this realization after I finished recording that these wins that the 49ers have had, these first three, have been so much more valuable, in my opinion, to what they're building than like a blowout win would be. And the reason I say that is you're seeing this identity form with this team where they just feel like if they can rip off one or two plays, if they can just put whatever's happened behind you, whatever mistake has been made by whatever unit, put that behind you and then make the next big play, you're going to put yourself in a position to win. And I've seen that every single week so far this season. And the one especially in this game was that safety that we took at the very end where Dominic Puny, yeah, he was called for holding in the end zone. We took a safety. We go down 2 points. And there's like no time left on the clock. And I'm like, damn, man, like that sucks. That's a hell of a way to lose a ball game. And then they go down the field and get 3 points for the win. And it was that moment of like, your special teams unit steps up, your offense steps up, your defense steps up when it matters. Like that was just seeing you be able to put all these issues behind from week 1, 2, and 3, all these injuries behind it, have all these next man up mentalities step in and do their jobs at an elite level. It's been really fun to see, and it's been nice. So that realization of just like how valuable these wins were is every reason why, like this season, I went into it saying it's not going to be the bowl year necessarily. We're not gunning for a Super Bowl. We're just going for trying to, rebuild this, retool this thing, and try and stack some good momentum going into the next years. This is the way you do it. And they've done it at a 3-0 record so far. So that bad news that you talked about, I talked about this light on the post game as well. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. I talked about this light at the end of the tunnel, and I was like, we're progressing. We're getting there. You've got your Brandon Ayuk and your George Kittle. They're in the distance, and then it comes out that Nick Bosa tears his ACL. Real quickly, here we go. Nick Bosa in high school, senior year of high school, he tore his left ACL. Right ACL, excuse me. He tore his right ACL. There's so many of these I need to kill up. And then in college at Ohio State, right before he was drafted, he tore his abdominal muscle. He had to have surgery there. Drafted number 2 overall to the 49ers. No problem. We're all good. Year after the first Super Bowl loss with him, he tears his left ACL, excuse me. Then he comes back looking good. And by the way, that left ACL was similar to Brandon's, where he tore his ACL, his MCL was toasted, like everything in the knee was pretty bad. And then he comes back, has an injury last year, misses some games, and then this year tearing his right ACL again, which is the same one he tore in high school, one of them. So it's tough, man. The injury history with Bosa is really tough. And this is very arguably the best player on your team. So losing a guy like that is going to be now an enormous hole to fill. I've always thought that an edge rusher is probably the second or third most important player on your team, other than the quarterback, of course. I think that's number one. But your edge rushers are massive human beings who need to move extremely quickly and be in tip-top shape. And the most elite ones that you see in the NFL and in NFL history have these incredible bodies who work on their craft, at an extremely high level. Bosa is one of those guys. So I don't doubt that he can come back 100%. It's just tough to know another season where this one's starting off pretty hot, pretty good. He has to go down. So that was the tough news that came out of it. And it was a bit of a dampener because, you'd love to come on here and talk about how good that win was, how good 3-0 feels, and how we're only going to get healthier from here. But now there's kind of this asterisk about how healthy can you really get, knowing the, arguably best player on your defense, is no longer there. So this is going to be interesting, but let's talk about this matchup this week against the Jaguars, because I'm not going to lie, with all the injury news and everything, I'm still excited for this game. Last time the Niners played the Jaguars was 2 years ago during that Super Bowl run. If you remember correctly, we were 5-0, and then we lost 3 straight games in horrible fashion. Thank you, Jake Moody. Shout out, Jake Moody. We lose those 3 games in horrible fashion. We go to the bye. There's all these questions about how good are the 49ers? Are they frauds? And then they come out and kick the Jaguars' ass. And it was right back to business as usual from there. So I enjoy playing the Jaguars. I've not really thought that Trevor Lawrence was that good of a quarterback. And I didn't really buy the hype. I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think he was ever on a level that people wanted to put him on. So with that being said, let's get into it. The Niners are 3.5-point favorites. You're getting Demarcus Robinson back. The 49ers are at wide receiver. He was practicing today. He's running some routes. Looks good. Looks ready. So that's exciting. Brock Purdy right now is progressing well. He was limited at practice today. The only thing on his injury report is the toe, which means the shoulder is no longer a question. So keep an eye on the toe. As for Mac Jones, he's got that bum knee from the preseason that he re-aggravated in the last game. He was wearing the knee brace. He talked about it afterward. He says he doesn't like to wear it because it's like a comfortability thing. Doesn't feel comfy to wear. And I'm sure he doesn't feel like you can move very well. So keep an eye on that. We'll see which one of those guys is good to go. Otherwise, it's going to get really interesting. But as for like today's practice, not practicing was Christian McCaffrey, Trent for rest, both those guys. Yetur Gross-Matos, he's dealing with a knee injury, which is kind of bum timing too because of the Nick Bosa thing. And CJ West broke his thumb in the last game, which he'll need surgery on. So his timeline's fluctuating. But aside from that, you're starting to get these guys back. You're starting to find some rhythm here. This is a good game to really establish yourself as a team that has pieces missing, but still has a system that works. And I think that's what I'm kind of looking for in this one is, this offense has started slow so many times this season. And you can totally say it's injuries. I completely understand that. And I agree to an extent, but at the same time, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have Brian Robinson. Those two guys know how to run the football. You've been continuously running the same dry play up the middle. It's not working. And when they start finally throwing the football, things open up. And you see this offense where you're spreading the ball to 8 different targets at wide receiver and tight ends, and you're getting this great production from so many different levels. That's what I'm looking for. It's one of my keys in this game. And to kind of talk about the Jags, this is an interesting team in and of themselves. They're 2-1 right now. You could argue they could be 3-0, but they crapped the bed against a Joe Burrow-less for 3.5 quarters Bengals team that had Jake Browning, shout out Folsom High, who threw 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, and went absolutely crazy and crawled them back in the game. So the Jaguars are kind of a question mark team right now too. How good are you actually? You rolled the Panthers. Cool. Panthers suck. You lost to a Bengals team that was totally banged up. You almost lost to, but you pulled out the win against the Texans, who the Texans are trash. So it's like, how good are you actually? And this is a this is a weird gauge this early in the season because you don't know how good any of these teams necessarily are yet. But, Trevor Lawrence, you can't just throw him out and say he's trash. Like, you've got to kind of account for him. Their wide receiver room is interesting. Brian Thomas is a very good wide receiver, really good rookie year. As of late, he's struggling with drops. He's struggling with production, and he doesn't like his role in Jacksonville. He's kind of disgruntled right now. So it's an interesting situation there. Then you got Travis Hunter, drafted this year, taking snaps at cornerback and wide receiver. And last Sunday, I don't know if you saw this, he took 85 snaps in the entire game. And they were split between wide receiver, cornerback. He took more defensive snaps last week because they probably had to play more defense. So it's interesting to see kind of his development because the offensive end, he's really only used for screen passes and dump offs. Like his longest one went for 21 yards. He caught it 3 yards ahead of the line of scrimmage and ran 18. So he's not really viewed as a wide receiver right now by his own team. And I don't think a lot of teams are considering him that either. And as a cornerback, he's making plays, but he's also kind of getting burned at the same time. So his development is a little interesting. So from that regard, two positions that you can kind of question how good they actually are. And then Travis Etienne is kind of the bright spot for them right now. That run game is really keeping them going. Travis Etienne's had a killer year so far on the ground. He's a good running back, but this seems like a breakthrough year for him. And this is going to be one of my keys as well, is you got to kind of limit Travis Etienne in that run game. If you can shut that down early, and you're going to see more snaps from Michael Williams if he's healthy and ready to go. If you can shut down that run game and force Trevor Lawrence to beat you, you're going to stand a better chance, because at that point, it's kind of like relying on a quarterback like a Jalen Hurts who doesn't normally throw the football a ton, but isn't actually good. That's the difference. You're relying on that guy to throw and win you games. Trevor Lawrence makes a lot of mistakes. He throws the ball into the defenders all the time. He throws into double and triple coverages when there's no reason to do that. And sometimes he has this weird mechanic in the way he throws that he's actually a slow thrower. And so that pocket collapsing in the time that it takes with his offensive line not being the best, he gets cracked a lot mid-throw. So he makes these mistakes, especially if you can put the pressure. And if you put the pressure of the game on him as well, that's going to be even more in your favor as a Niners unit. So those are kind of my two big ones. But the biggest key to the game, and I'll toss it over to you here before I get the scores, is exactly what I was saying earlier, that this team has struggled to start these games offensively all season long. With as big of a hole missing now, with Nick Bosa being out, it's hard to think that this defense is going to continue to put up the numbers that they have so far. I trust Rob Saleh. I think he's going to dial up a scheme that works. It might be blitz heavy, which is rare for him. He's not a blitz heavy defensive coordinator, but that might be the way to fill it. But if this defense can't get it done early, it has to be your offense. And at some point, your offense has to figure it out. You're starting to get some of these guys back. Ricky is on a breakout right now. He was out at practice today. He wasn't at practice, but he said he's good to go. His knee, they're saying, isn't that big of a deal. If there was a game today, he would play. So he'll be there. Jawan Jennings, you're most likely getting back as well. We'll kind of gauge that as it goes. You're going to have these options for your receivers. You're going to have options at tight end with Luke Farrell and Jake Tonjes. These guys are all capable of making plays. If you can get your offense cooking early, then you're going to stand a way better chance with your defense making plays, because you can play a little more conserved. And in that case, you won't have to feel like you have to get the ball super quick. So that's the biggest key, is that offense getting cooking early. But I'm going to get your take on this game, and then we can talk scores.
Yeah, so I think with this one, I think the two players on the offensive side outside of ETN that you really need to look out for is their tight end, Brenton Strange. That's one of Trevor's favorite targets, and Parker Washington, their slot receiver. he's kind of, I think the reason Travis Hunter's taking less roles on the offensive side is because Washington's kind of broken out. He was a target of Lawrence's for the past couple years now, but I think that comfortability, I think they're just more comfortable with that. And I do think Travis Hunter, I think his development, I think I understand what he's trying to do. I understand what the whole point of it and why they did what they did with him. Um, but I do think if they just kind of let him ride that cornerback spot more often, I think that's just where he's stronger. And then feature him in like gadget plays. But I think the one part I'm really worried about for you guys, going up against the Jags is going to be, can your offensive line hold up against their defensive front? Like, Hines Allen, you got Trayvon Walker, your homeboy Eric Armstead returns. That'll be good to have him there. Hopefully he's not barreling down on whoever your QB is. But I don't know. Like you said, it probably is partially who they've played as to why the numbers kind of look the way they do. But if there is a part of this Jags team that is carrying, it is that defense right now. Their defense is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I would not be surprised if this was another slugfest. I would not be surprised if it came down to another close possession, one possession game going into the fourth, and you need a big stop here or there. But I'm really keeping an eye out for Upton Stout in this one against Parker Washington. I want to see, he made a huge play at the end of the Cardinals game, so we'll see if he can keep that momentum going. You've been, one of your boys for your draft class who's been performing really well, and hopefully Michael's healthy. I know CJ West broke his thumb, but I don't know what that means, if he's going to play with the cast or not later on. So I'm sure we'll see on Sunday what that ends up being. But I like this matchup for you guys. I just think it's going to be closely contested. I am very curious to see how this defense looks without Bosa. And I don't think it would be unfair if, it took a tiny step back when you lose a top 3 defensive player in the league. I just think he has that much value. And you see, this is going to be a very interesting Bryce Huff game. I want to see how he looks when he doesn't have Bosa taking a lot of the pressure away from him. These are going to be like, okay, can these young guys step up? Like, I am very curious to see. It's disappointing, I think, from my perspective of the Bosa thing. It's like, it sucks. Like, this sucks. Like, I would hate to lose a top 3 player on this roster. And especially on the defensive side of the ball, where his impact, like, he was playing so good to start the year. So I still have faith, like you said, in Saleh, to have a game plan around, missing Bosa. And then again, you guys had to figure it out on the fly against Arizona. You guys have a week of practice now, and you guys will have to deal with it the rest of the year. So I'm sure Saleh will figure it out in these next few weeks. He'll find something that makes this defense much, get back to kind of what it was these first few weeks. So we'll see what happens. But I think overall this is going to be a good matchup. Second game in a row at home. So the Jags have to come all the way over here. That factors in a little bit. You guys got the early game too. Right? Is it at 10, that game? Yeah. So both of our teams are in the morning slate. So it'll be
No, I'm sorry. It's at 1.
Is it at 1? Okay. So you guys will get the afternoon slot, but it'll still be, a good game at home, especially after coming off of the game winner last week, and the Niner faithful are going to be coming out hard in this one. So I'm excited for you guys, but I'll get your score before I give mine.
Yeah, and just one more topper to it. You talked about that defensive line that they have, and it's concerning. I will admit. I think that there's a good chance that if Purdy's back there, I'm going to be a little nervous having him running around for his life coming off that turf toe. If Mac's back there, I'm going to be pretty nervous because he doesn't really move. And if his knee is still bummy, if he's in that brace, he's really not going to move. And so either way, it's a little worrisome from that regard. But that defensive line is no joke that they've got there. And it's kind of one of those situations that's like, if you can dial up a scheme so you just get the ball out of whatever quarterback you have in their hands, then you have a good chance at keeping your guy clean. And that's one thing that I haven't seen as well is I've seen Mac Jones just sitting back there and hanging in the pocket for 3 to 5 seconds. And I'm like, dude, just throw the ball, like make a play. We'll see what the game plan is, but I'm just kind of looking at the numbers that the that the Jaguars defense is putting up. Like they're 10th in yards per game, 11th in red zone defense. The Niners, by the way, have terrible offense in the red zone again this year, probably because they can't run the ball. Did you know they're one of the only the only team in the NFL right now with no rushing touchdown? It's crazy. It's crazy. The Jaguars are 7th in yards per game in terms of how much they allow. So that's, they have a competent defense. They have a defense that can absolutely make plays. And you saw, they've gotten takeaways from quarterbacks already this year. So it's another one of those situations. You just got to dial up the right scheme against this team. And I'm honestly kind of looking at Kyle at the offensive end, and I'm looking at Rob Saleh on the defensive end because, these guys have figured out a way to get all these guys playing at a pretty elite level pretty early in their careers. I think in this game especially, you want to kind of gauge how you want to handle this Bosa situation. Do you want to go and get a guy like a Trey Hendrickson? Do you want to get, like a Bradley Chubb from the Dolphins or someone like that? Then you got to prove that this season's still worth it. That means winning this week. That means probably beating the Rams the following week, like stacking enough wins where it's like there's a reason to gun for this season. You lose these next 2 games, I think you find yourself in a situation that's like, do we just hold out? So these next 2 games are kind of something to keep an eye on when it comes to that Bosa situation. But I am going to take the 49ers winning this game. And the point spread or the total points was projected at 46.5, which was actually the most that the Niners have had so far this season. So I do expect this to be similar in a lot of ways to the other games, but I think they'll find ways to put points on the board now knowing that their defense is kind of hit. So I anticipate the Niners putting up 30. And I'm saying 30-24 Niners.
That's a very interesting score. I think, I guess it would make sense for it to be a little bit more high scoring given the lack of Bosa too. Because part of me, I just don't know how much I believe in this Jags offense, just because they're still working out so many kinks with the new head coach and everything. And also, I was high on Trevor just when he first came out, but I'm not seeing it at all. And I also don't see like the leadership in him either. It just, I don't know how I feel.
Dude, he doesn't even make me want to build a sandwich.
That's right. He did the Subway commercial, or whatever that was. But no, I believe you guys are the better team, but for some reason, I just have this being a barn burner because I'm nervous about your quarterback situation. Like, you're playing, who's your third guy? Because I'm a little nervous about, having 2 statue quarterbacks who are hurt. Like, it just feels like you're playing with fire a little bit. And that, got away with it last week. Let's see if you get away with it this week. But I hope for your sake that, like you said, schematically, Shanahan for this offense, whoever the quarterback is, it's just going to be, hey, let's get it out quick. You saw what happened at the end of the Cardinals game where Mac Jones was basically no huddling his way up the field. And that worked so well because, for him, it's like, let it go. Okay. Hike it. Let it go. Okay. Next play. Let it go. Just super quick. That's all it was the whole time. And the freaking Cardinals were just giving it to him, which was crazy. But I think there should be an element of that for Mac. It's just like, okay, let maybe run a little bit of hurry up every now and again, just so then you keep the same defensive coverages out there, get a few easy ones, and then set it up for McCaffrey or whatever you need to do. I have this game being close. It's 3.5 points, like you said. So I'm going to do 7. I'm going to have the Niners covering at home 17-13.
Big difference in our scores. I like it.
So let's touch up on. So now we got both of our teams here. Did you have any final thoughts on the Niners before we head out here?
Yeah, I'm just at this point, I just want to see the Niners continue building the way that they are, that identity. I think even if you come away with a loss in this one, if you show the fight, considering everything that's going on with your team, that's, I think, enough to ask for. That's all.
Agreed. And I think that you guys, again, this was the whole point of, like, same with the Eagles too. Like, this is why you stack the wins early, because now all of a sudden the room for error that, like, you were nervous about at first is kind of, you feel like you have that now. So it feels a little bit, easier to say, okay, if we take an L here, this was kind of expected now because we overachieved to start. And that's for both of our teams who have kind of gotten away with a lot of stuff going in, whether it's injury for the Niners or, subpar play for the Eagles. I think it's being 3-0 is exactly where you want to be. And we can worry about playoffs when the playoffs get there, but this is a great start. For the NFC, it's going to take about 10 wins to get into the playoffs. So to say that our team, and it's hard to get wins in the NFL, you can ask Micah Parsons apparently with the Browns, right? But it's like it. Now we can say that we checked off 3. And I think, knowing that we still have so much football left to play, I think we're in a great spot. So speaking of Micah, we wanted to do just some final thoughts in general, kind of it's like overreactions of more of just final thoughts that we thought were very interesting. And both of these are going to be NFC East related. But the news around the Cowboys and the Packers, who are playing this weekend, Micah Parsons returns home to Dallas. And the news around Dallas was, will Micah, it was talked about for a second, and Jerry shot this down very quick. The question was like, oh, will Micah have a tribute video? Will Dallas have a tribute video for him? And Jerry Jones came out early this week and said it would be inappropriate for the Cowboys to have a tribute video, and they will not be having a tribute video. So Ben, you wanted to bring this topic up to light in this podcast, so I'm assuming you have a very interesting opinion on it. So do you think that Micah deserves a tribute video coming into this weekend?
I hope Jerry has a long life I hope he's with the Cowboys for as long as humanly possible, because him being there has been the greatest comedy years of my life. But side note, or rather that was the side note. So does he deserve the tribute video? Should he get one? In my opinion, I actually gotta kind of agree that he shouldn't get one. What did he do with the Cowboys? Like, look, from a personal standpoint, he was incredible. He had the Cowboys rookie sack record, 4 consecutive Pro Bowl selections, only 3 other players to do that in franchise history with Zach Martin, Emmitt Smith, and Mel Renfro. Also in his rookie campaign, Defensive Rookie of the Year, first team All-Pro as defensive rookie. But the most they ever did with him was win 1 playoff game. Like, it's not like you went to the NFC Championship game. It's not like you went to multiple Super Bowls. I'm sitting here just kind of like, you didn't do anything with him. Like, it's not a bash on him so much as it is the team. Like, in that 4-year span, you had the best defensive player in the league in so many ways. And I wouldn't pick him to do a tribute video for. The Cowboys did a tribute video for Zach Martin when he retired this year. Yeah, but he was there for 11 years. The only other current guy that I would give a tribute video to would be Dak. And even still, you can question the same thing. Like, all you did was win a playoff game. So I'm sitting here and I've got to say for the first time, like, Jerry's genuinely right about this. I don't think it's appropriate for them to do a tribute video.
So let me offer you a take on, I agree. I think that despite all the accolades that Micah has acquired early on, I think I wouldn't have been surprised either way. But I think the argument for doing this is now you just lit a freaking fire under Micah Parsons, right? You're basically daring him like, oh, hey, we are moving on from you entirely and not giving you any recognition. So, hey, I think Jerry even said that they were going to run plays at Micah in this game. So I was like, you're just going to stoke the fire for Micah Parsons and dare him to beat you against a team that mollywopped you the last time y'all played. It's going to be very interesting. But let me throw out one little argument in the sense of like why they should have done this. Think about Luka Doncic, then sticking with Dallas, right? They made this insane trade to the Lakers. Luka has done more. To your point, Luka got to the NBA Finals. Like, he carried that team for years. He got another contract. Like, he had been there longer, and has done more comparatively in his career. But what happened when Luka went back home? So when he went back to Dallas, right, they did this amazing tribute video for him. He was emotional, and because he was caught up in that old emotion, everyone thought he was going to come out with his hair on fire and kick their ass, but he didn't. He played meh. So why not try to do that same approach with Micah Parsons and say, hey, thank you for everything, bro. We love you. Like, I know it was a rough ending. We appreciate you. Cry some tears real quick, and then we'll play this game while you're still emotional and thinking about everything. That's the only thing that I would say of, like, you're basically flipping this dude off now and saying, hey, you're coming here and we don't care. And you have, as the Cowboys, you have literally the worst defense in the league. And now he's going to get to sack his boy Dak, 4 different times in this game, without CD in this game either. So it's like, why stoke the fire when in this situation with the way the team's set up right now, you're going to be taking an L. You're going to be losing this game. I'm sorry. Like, you're not losing. You're not winning this game. Mike is going to come out here and he's going to destroy you guys. That's my take, and that's a lot of people's takes. But I just have a feeling the karmic relief on Jerry Jones is run dry.
I don't think, I think the biggest reason he's doing this is, like, yes, it is a middle finger in a lot of ways. They weren't going to win the game anyway. Like, even if Micah was so sad and so down about it, like, if it was just offense v offense, like, the Packers are going to win this game. So reality is that I don't think Jerry even went into this expecting them to win anyway, whether he gave him a tribute video or not. It's genuinely just the last FU to Micah because of all the trouble and the back and forth and the crap that didn't work between them. Like, it was a clash of two guys with big egos, and neither one of them, wanted to hash out a deal when the other was ready to. And at this point, it really did come down to Jerry just wanting the last little middle finger. That's all I can attribute to, but it doesn't affect how Micah's going to play, because I think Micah was going to always play his absolute hardest to prove a damn point here, and he's going to do that anyways without the tribute video. So I don't think it really mattered, in my opinion.
No, that's a totally valid point. And honestly, you're right. Would probably, the Packers are probably going to roll. It'll be very interesting if Jordan Love craps the bed all of a sudden, what that looks like. That would be insane. If Micah loses in Dallas, that's going to be all time, bro. That's going to be so bad. Packers are going to be like, you lose to the Browns and the freaking Cowboys in back-to-back weeks. Okay, let's pump the brakes. But yeah, so that'll be an interesting thing to look out for. Obviously, now everyone knows what's going to happen. No tribute video, but that is going to be a game to look out for. They're going to mention it on the broadcast that they decided this because this was a talking point. It'll be interesting. So let's stay in the NFC East. Talk about a new quarterback in the NFC East, and one that this prediction I was wrong on. I thought that early on, hey, even if the Giants, have the season that everyone thinks they were going to have and it was going to be bad to begin with, that, hey, you'll stick with Russ, or if Russ, sucks, you'll go to Jameis before going to the Rook. Jaxson Dart has been announced as the starter against the LA Chargers, who are rolling 3-0, best defense in the NFL right now. So, so for those who called it, good job, Jaxson Dart's playing. Do you think that this is the most ideal first matchup for Jaxson Dart, especially when there is a possibility that Malik Neighbors might actually not be playing in this game too?
Yeah, and that's the part of it that doesn't make sense, is you might not have the number one target that you'd be throwing to, and you're going to throw him essentially into a dumpster fire and said, here, go try and be a diamond and impress some people because our team hasn't been able to do it so far. It doesn't make sense to me. I would hold off until at the very least Malik Neighbors is 100% healthy. That way you get, maybe you get a good game out of Jaxson and you develop some actual confidence, versus you throw him into a dumpster fire like this, or what could be, he might lose a lot of confidence. And even worse, that could lead to it, like a Jake Moody situation, is your fan base loses that confidence in you that quickly. And that kind of thing can throw you off at an early stage in your career, like a la Trey Lance. So I'm kind of like, while I like them starting Jaxson Dart, I think ultimately that was the right idea. Doing it right now doesn't make sense, especially against this Chargers team that is rolling.
Yeah, and I understand that because like the calls for Russ, if they had just played it out one more game, let Russ be the guy in this one, the same conversation would have been the same. I think that for Dart, I'm a little worried, right? I'm less worried about Dart so much as I'm worried about the Giants and the fact of their track record, like we've mentioned with star players or young upstart talent, that they don't maximize the talent because they're always trying to rush this process of like, oh, can we win? Can we compete? Can we do this? Trying to hold on to, their success that they had in the late, 2000s, early 2010s. I just think that like for Jaxson Dart, I don't doubt his confidence, but this feels like a coach trying to save his job versus because you're going all off season saying, oh, we're in the perfect situation. This is why we brought Jameis so then Jaxson can sit. We don't even have to worry. We don't even have to think about Dart playing this season. That was the expectation. At least that's what they told us all off season, and that would have been okay. Like, I don't understand why they did it, but now they're here. Now they're letting the young guy go. This is going to be, because he could have a few good games. He could play decently well, but overall have a horrible season. They lose a ton. Let's see if they can pull off a win. That'll be the interesting part. Like, how different is Russ and Dart? Like, can Dart get the most of these guys? Is he going to be able to hit the throws that Russ was missing? Like, I'm just curious. And I think that they're dealing with a lot with their injury. Their injury history is struggling. If this is Dable's last hurrah, like, okay, I kind of understand. And Dart will get the luxury of the leash, of being the starter next year and trying it all over, even if it's with a new coach. But I think that, for him this week, it's going to be tough. But I'm sure there's going to be matchups. But then he gets the Chargers. Philly's coming to him very soon, twice in a short span, very soon, and like it's going to be an interesting road. But maybe this will pave the way for Jaxson Dart to eventually get better moving forward. But it was an interesting move, and I thought it was worthy of mentioning.
Agreed.
All right, y'all. So I think we're going to leave it off here. Did you have any final thoughts before we head out here?
No, sir. I'm good to go.
All right. So, guys, this was episode 105 of the Behind the Back podcast. You can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. For all you audio listeners out there, the links to the descriptions are down below. I'm doing this in reverse. For all you guys watching on video, all the links to the descriptions for our socials are up above. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, and follow the show. If you guys stuck around, please let us know. For Niners fans, how excited are you for this weekend? Who do you guys think is going to be your starting quarterback? We'll figure that out. Eagles fans, do you guys think we can beat this bugaboo in the Buccaneers and see if we're able to pull off a win on the road and go 4-0? Both of our teams have 4-0, divisions on the line. A lot of stuff happening this week. This Thursday night matchup, real quick, is between the Cardinals and the Seahawks, right?
Correct.
Who are you leaning towards?
It's going to be the Seahawks. I think Seahawks just got the better defense. I think that they're a little more established. And as far as the Cardinals right now, Marvin Harrison is a dumpster fire as well. Like, his career is kind of in jeopardy low key. It's a good thing he was drafted as early as he was. Now he has a longer leash. But I think, hot take, not so hot take, I got Seattle winning this one by a good amount.
I would say the same thing. I think, the Cardinals dealing with injuries of their own. Obviously, what happened in the Niners game. I think that Seattle was, after week one, figured out what they needed to do to get this done, find the recipe a little bit. So they're definitely doing well there. So, yeah, I think Seattle's going to win this one as well. The NFC West, man, the NFC West is looking like a powerhouse division now.
Yeah, you know what? Real quick, final thought. I'm so sorry. Ricky Pearsall is third in receiving yards right now. And I got to say, man, like, the NFC is running the receiving yards right now. Puka Nacua has 333, he's number one. Jackson Smith-Njigba is number two, 323, and Ricky Pearsall is just 281. So, I mean, NFC West is kind of running right now. Y'all wanted to hate on our division saying it was mid. Like, I mean, kind of cooking.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And then if you look at the NFC East, it's definitely just the Eagles and the Commanders right now. So it's good. So that's where we want to be. But yeah, the NFC West, the Niners being where they are, the fact that they are on top of the division is where you want to be. So, guys, please let us know what you guys are excited for this weekend. The NFL season this year has been crazy so far. A lot of great games. Every week there seems to be just like insane stuff happening. Obviously, this week it was special teams really taking over for a lot of these games. So, we'll see what week 4 has to offer. But hopefully we are talking on our post-game pods this week about a victory and going 4-0. So with that being said, y'all, I am Marcos Conan Negron. Beside me here, as always, is
Ben the Jet Reds.
all right, y'all. We love y'all. We will talk to you next week.
Peace.